Welcome to the Delicious Alignment and the Art of Abundance podcast. We cover topics related to health, wealth, and happiness from a spiritual and metaphysical point of view. Okay, so I apologize if I sound a little nasally today, guys. I got COVID for the first time last Friday, and I was in bed for 4 days. And the positive thing though that came out of it is that, out of sheer boredom, I started listening to a course I purchased over a year ago on podcasting. And it wasn't cheap, by the way, but I never listened to it. It's like tons and tons of material. I tried to listen to it last year, but it just wasn't resonating with me. Well, I started listening to it and I couldn't stop. This time it was resonating with me. And then the thought popped into my head that maybe I wasn't ready for it then, even though I was inspired to buy the course. I wasn't ready for the message. And then I saw like, wow, I am not the same person I was a year ago. I'm really not. So what about you? Do you think you're the same person as you were a year ago? Maybe we're not the same person from a minute ago. I mean, who knows how this stuff really works, right? It's all so fascinating to me. That's why I love doing these interviews and hearing other people's perspectives on spirituality and enlightenment and abundance. It's just so expansive. And having said all that, Zehra Mahoon is one of those people I love talking to about manifestation and abundance and expansion. And today you'll hear me talk to Zehra about her book, The Prosperity Puzzle, which is one of 15 books she's written on the law of attraction. She is also a former financial advisor and current master mindset and law of attraction coach. After committing to completely transforming her self-worth in 2006, Zehra went from massive debt to owning multiple properties and creating a thriving business. I love talking about the prosperity puzzle with Zehra. So usually I would do an integration episode today where I would share my thoughts about the previous episode. This is something I started this year, which, oh my gosh, the previous episode with Denai Navoa, I have received so many comments about. Last week's interview was incredible. So if you haven't listened to that one, I would definitely check it out. But because of my voice and my nasalness and my head still being a little bit fuzzy, I thought it better to publish this episode today with Zehra. This is the second time she's on the show. So I hope you enjoy it. I know I did. Can't wait for you to listen. Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Delicious Alignment or its host. Hello, Zehra. Great to see you again and have you on the show.
Good to be back.
Yes, back, yes. And I figured we'd talk about your book, The Prosperity Puzzle, which I have right here. One of the things I want to ask you about your lovely book, which I feel I relate to it so much. The way that you write is very similar in a way to, I think, I hope you take it as a compliment, as the way that I write. It's very clear and to the point. What you start out with is money, my friend. That's one of the themes in here. One of the quotes on page 12. It's really a question. It's part of a little quiz that you have in the beginning. If your family and pets were safely outside and your house was on fire, is there anything that you would go back and get? Which is really a thought-provoking question, because I even stopped myself and thought, no, if my house is on fire and all of my loved ones and my pets are safe, would I go back in? I might want to. I want to go back in and get maybe something that's in the safe or whatever, mementos, pictures. But really, why would you go back inside?
Exactly. And that's the whole point of the question, is to help people put things into perspective. Really, how important is the money part of life?
Well, when you put it like that, but most people would say it's pretty important, right?
It is. And that's the whole thing. But it's the whole idea about abundance has to do with attachment. If you have attachment, then you are preventing abundance. And that's the main thing. That's what we want to do, whatever we can to reduce, maybe eliminate. I say reduce because to eliminate is we are human. We can have pretty good lives if we just reduce it. We don't even have to eliminate resistance.
Good point. Good point. Because so many of us think we need to have zero resistance or
That's right.
zero.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something in my coaching practice. I come across this all the time where people feel that they have to get rid of all contrast in their lives. Like people make it their objective to always stay high on the emotional scale, but you can't do that. You are human. You are meant to experience contrast. However, experience it. Don't stay there. Don't peg a tent and say, I'm just going to sit here. Feel it and then move away from it. Feel it and move away from it.
Yeah, and lately I've been really knowing that contrast is really great. It helps you expand. It's the thing that,
Exactly. Yeah.
yes, the contrast is there for our benefit.
Absolutely. Because we wouldn't want to be born if there was no contrast on planet Earth. We come here to experience contrast.
The contrast gives us clarity about what we want.
That's right.
Yeah, really great. So we're on the same page with that, of course. And then on page 27, you say, if you don't like where you stand with respect to your money situation, then you know you have a thought addiction that is getting in the way. And then you go on to talk about thought addiction and also worry addiction. So can you say a little bit about that? Why do you call it, which I totally get, by the way, but why do you call it addiction?
Because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. We have a way of doing things, we have a way of thinking. And this is not just law of attraction. If you look at psychology, psychological research has proven that 60% of our thoughts are recycled, meaning whatever you were thinking yesterday, you're going to be thinking today. And maybe there'll be some new stuff, but most of the time, people just regurgitate whatever it was that they were thinking before. And it's an addiction. It's like an addiction because what are the elements of an addiction? The element of an addiction is you do it you can't help yourself but do it. And so that is the definition of an addiction. And usually there's an element of, I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it anyway. There is not a single person on planet Earth who is going to tell you, oh, yeah, I want to think negative thoughts because negative thinking is such a good thing. Nobody says that. Nobody agrees with that statement, but people do it anyway. And that's why I call it an addiction.
Yeah, and it's habit of thought, right? You just have these habits of thinking that they keep repeating themselves, recycled, as you say. Yeah.
And I see that with law of attraction as well. I see people becoming upset because they think they're using law of attraction, but life isn't changing.
Yeah.
And then they get unhappy because they want to figure it out. They want to do it right. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to be happy.
So that is the most common thing. Wouldn't you agree that complaint, if you will, is that I'm using the law of attraction and where's my stuff? It's not happening. Where's the guy? Where's this? Where's that? Right.
Yeah.
And for me, where I am now in my life, where I've been a couple of years, is just like knowing, trusting, it's already done. Yes, we hear that all the time. It's already done. But do we actually believe it? And how do we believe it, Sarah? How do we come to know that in our bones? That's a big question, I know. And the book actually answers that question. But
the answer is really more simple than people would think. If you are really being positive, if you are really being grateful, if you're really appreciative, if you are really connected to source, if you are really in alignment, if you are really in the vortex, if you are really feeling good, then everything that you want is happening.
Yeah. And I would go so far as to say it's happening anyway. Even if you're not those things, everything's happening for you. All right. All right. On page 99, you talk about not working with deadlines. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're referring to goals, like if you have a goal, not having like a hard deadline of
Mm-hmm.
when. And so, can you say a little bit about that?
As so, deadlines are relative to where you are on the emotional scale. When I teach salespeople sales training, usually salespeople, whether they are network marketing or whether they are selling cars or they are selling cosmetics, it doesn't matter. Salespeople usually have a target and there is a timeline attached to that target. You need to achieve this level of sales by this time. And those salespeople who are high on the emotional scale, in all the trainings that I've done, and I actually have another sales training coming up based on law of attraction, is that I find that those salespeople who are high on the emotional scale, they get energized by sales targets. And those people who are low on the emotional scale, it is the worst possible thing for them because it takes them further down the emotional scale. Because when you're low on the emotional scale, you are in a place of lack of abundance. And when you're high on the emotional scale, you are in a place of abundance. So to one, a target is exciting because they know they're going to get it because they are high flying. And to the other one, it's demoralizing, it's deflating, it slows them down even further. And so here's the thing, in all the coaching that I have done, I find that people really don't have a clue where they are on the emotional scale. Nobody really knows because, and it's not their fault. It's not that they're doing something wrong. Like I said a few minutes ago, we go up and down the emotional scale 60,000 times a day. So if I'm going up and down the emotional scale 60,000 times a day, how the heck am I supposed to know where I am at any one point in time? And so people a lot of times assume that they are higher on the emotional scale than they actually are. And sometimes people assume that they are lower on the emotional scale than they actually are. So I say, forget all of that. If you don't put a timeline on it, you will not feel that lack of time because lack of time is
Mm.
also a vibration of lack. And when you have a
Mm.
deadline, you are imposing a lack of time. So just throw that out the window and just do your best.
Yes, yeah. I totally agree because I used to work with deadlines a lot. I was a copywriter, so I would have deadlines all the time to get a sales letter written, an online sales letter for someone, for a client. And then I self impose deadlines because I just,
Mhm.
this is what we're taught.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. And even when I wrote my book, it was just like I had these deadlines and put this pressure on myself. And the last book that I wrote, I ghost wrote this book for someone else. We said no deadlines. She told me, I want you to only write when it feels good to write. And it was
Right.
so
Exactly.
wonderful. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything is, there is guidance in everything. There's guidance in everything I look at. There's guidance in everything I touch. There's guidance in everything. And so from that point of view, yes, everything that is happening is helping me.
Yeah, definitely. And so tell me more about working with salespeople. So they must understand the law of attraction, these people that you're working with, or no? Do they know about
No,
it?
no, everyone comes to law of attraction because they want better results than they were getting before. From that point of view, people who come to me to learn how to practice how to practice soft sales, I call it soft sales, which is sales based on the law of attraction. They come to me because they do have a basic understanding of law of attraction and they want to apply it to this one thing, sales. And then it leads into how do I manage a business? Because sales is part of a business, and how, like I said before, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So once you learn to practice law of attraction properly, you will apply it to every single thing in your life. And for an entrepreneur, their personal life and their business life is so intertwined, you cannot separate the two.
Yeah. So actually, people say working for a company and they have to get so many sales per quarter or whatever.
Yes.
Do you work with people in that situation?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Predominantly, that's who I work with.
oh, okay, because I remember I had so many jobs like that. It
Yeah.
really wasn't the right fit for me because I'm an introvert. I'm a writer, and just going out and trying to make it just really wasn't the right thing. I hated it. I wasn't good at it. But I'm just curious how what you said about people who are high vibing and they have that target, like you need to make $25,000 in sales this quarter or whatever, and how that actually works for a lot of people to have
Yes.
that. And I never thought of it that way, that for a lot of people that feels good to have
Yes.
that
That's right.
target. Yeah.
So those are the people who are actually successful with sales, are the ones who get excited about sales. And those people who don't like sales, like yourself, they don't enjoy it. So if you are not enjoying something, it's taking you down the emotional scale, then your results are going to match where you are on the emotional scale.
Yeah. And
Right?
simply because it's not the
Yeah.
right fit. It's not the right fit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to
So,
get into something that lights you up and
right.
not be in a place. So the thing is, again, law of attraction is really simple when you understand the emotional scale and when you understand the concept of momentum. That's law of attraction.
These things, we don't have to figure out the how, they just happen.
That's right.
Yes.
And so with salespeople, for some salespeople, there's a fear of not meeting the quota. There's a fear of not meeting the sales target. There are many different types of fears. One fear is if I don't meet my target, I won't make enough money to run my house, to do what I want to do for my family and for myself. The other type of fear is if I don't do well, then the company might let me go and I might have to start all over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So there are many fears. The third fear is, what will people say? And there are
Yeah.
companies that have sales leaderboards, and they put it in online. When I was working in sales that way, it used to be in the lunchroom, who's where this week, and
Yeah.
nobody obviously wants to be at the bottom of that list. So that for some people, they get energized. I'm going to be at the top. And some people get afraid. Oh my God, I hope I don't end up in the bottom. And so that difference of perspective is what results then in sales success or sales failure. Because fear will bring you negative results, excitement will bring you excellent results.
Yeah. You're making me think of my daughter, and she's somewhat in sales because she gets commission if she upsells people to
Exactly.
more expensive rooms in this luxury hotel. So she was at the top of the game like 2 months in a row. She was on the top of the leaderboard. I think
Yeah.
she's more like the person you're describing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So isn't that wonderful to see?
Oh
It's
yeah,
so
she
wonderful
and
to
I are very
see.
different. She's a natural salesperson. I'm
And so sales is
not.
not for everyone. And so
Yeah.
that's why that's the aspect of business that we tell business people, entrepreneurs, do the thing that lights you up.
Yeah.
That's why we tell them that. And stop doing the thing that makes you fearful, because
Yeah.
that's when your fear, see, vibration goes everywhere. Vibration has no walls. Vibration can travel long distances. It's silent and it's invisible. And so it is going to affect everything in your life. It's going to touch
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And on page 147, you say you are attached to the outcome if you are looking for evidence of the manifestation on a daily and sometimes minute to minute basis. So this is
Mhm.
about attachment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Now you said you don't look at the numbers, but I bet you look at the numbers for your business, for your coaching.
I
You don't. Okay. Because I was just thinking that because your background is finances and all that. So
I know. But
yeah.
even when I was an advisor, I wasn't looking at the numbers
Yeah.
because advice is about emotions, managing emotions. Numbers are a small part of it. They are
Yeah.
not the main part.
I don't really look at the numbers like I used to either because I'm following the light, following what excites me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just knowing it's all going to work out.
That's right.
It is working out.
It is
It is already worked
absolutely,
out.
yes.
Okay, all righty. Next question. And I know you're originally from the financial industry. You were a broker, an investment banker, financial advisor. And how did you make that transition into being a coach, law of attraction? It just happened organically, or you left your job and you decided to become a coach, or
Financial advisors, by the nature of their job, are coaches because
yes.
they have to manage the emotions of their clients with respect to
Mm-hmm.
whatever the money financial situation of the client is. And it's a very easy transition. But really, it's because I was outspoken about the law of attraction, and people came to me with their law of attraction questions for a very long time. For 10 years, I did both side by side until I made the transition into coaching full time. I kept telling myself throughout that I don't have to choose between either of them because you can have everything that you want. And I absolutely loved financial planning. Absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
And have done such a good job of it for myself that I was able to retire at age 54. I really enjoy it. And so it was not an easy decision for me to let go the job because I
Mm-hmm.
love it so much. But I told myself one day the business is going to be so demanding that you will have to make a choice. When push came to shove, and I had to ask myself the question, you're going to have to pick one because you no longer can do both. It's not physically, humanly in
Yeah.
your, it's too much. It's too much. And it got to a point where I was working both full time.
Wow.
And so in the end, I decided I'm so appreciative of the fact that I have been able to create a financial foundation for myself that allows me to just sit back and relax a little bit. And so I chose the business and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So it was an easy choice
Yes.
in the end.
Great. Zara, on page 106, you talk about the 4-step process for creating new beliefs. And I'll just read it real quick. Is that okay? And then we could
Sure.
just chat about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And number one, when faced with a situation that is less than what you desire, state it exactly as it is in as few words as is possible. So I guess that's just like identifying the
Yeah.
situation and how you're feeling about it. And then number two, identify the end goal and how you want to feel when you achieve it. Yeah. Yeah. So like you're visualizing how you want to feel.
Right.
Yes? Yes. Okay. And then three, soften the situation by finding things about the situation that are 100% true, as well as positive in a way that you can appreciate. So does this go with journaling? Is this something I would think it's very useful to do it like writing it out, or you could just do it in your head.
As I teach the process, people start out by writing it out. But once you get really good at doing it, it only takes a few minutes to do. And most people just do it in their heads. As a follow up to the book, Rhonda, I created what I call the Law of Attraction Toolkit. And the Law of Attraction Toolkit is an online course that has all law of attraction processes in it, including the 4-step process, but mainly it has meditation and visualization. Really, I am teaching those exercises based on the teachings of Abraham and what I know of law of attraction and what has worked for me. And so it goes really much deeper and in depth. But in the prosperity puzzle, there are examples. There's an example of how to do a 4-step process, I think,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yes.
There
Yes.
are examples in the book.
Yes. There's an example. You go through the process and then you give an example. So yeah. So you can write this out, and Zara says you can also
Just do it in your head.
do it in your head.
Exactly, because this process will really become your way of thinking. So whenever there's contrast, you will go, oh, I don't like this. So what do I like? Which is what Abraham teaches us. I've just put steps into what I've learned from Abraham. So then Abraham says, soothe yourself, make yourself feel better, shift that belief. Don't let it be hard and fast on your path, blocking you. So that's what step 3 does. It softens the resistance that is blocking you. And then step 4 is appreciation, which takes you high on the emotional scale. And of course, when you go high on the emotional scale, everything that you want flows into your life.
Mm-hmm. And the step 4 here is make a statement that is futuristic. That to me, this sounds like pre-paving, which I love. Pre-paving. Make a statement that is futuristic, that is a small step forward towards where you eventually wish to go. When you try to make a statement that is too far out from where you are, you don't believe it, or it feels too far, or you're not in alignment with it, then your intellect refuses to accept it as a possibility, and this defeats the purpose of your visualization. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is in this book, The Prosperity Puzzle, which I highly recommend. And then you've written so many other books, so you can find Zehra on Amazon and check out all her books. This one is I love it. It's on prosperity. It's very simple, but it has so much juicy content. So if you want to check it
Thank you,
out,
Rhonda.
yeah,
Thank you.
I really
Appreciate
do
it.
love it. Yeah,
Thank you.
wonderful. And also tell people how they can find you.
Through my website is probably the best. My website is my first initial and my last name, ZMAHON.com. And Z Mahoon is my handle across all media. So whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, it's Z Mahoon.
Yes, perfect, perfect. And all of this information will be in the show notes, the link to Zehra's website, etc. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Zehra. Again, I really appreciate it.
I was thrilled to be invited. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Zehra Mahoon. You can connect with her through her website at zmahoon.com. That's ZMAHOON.com. And across social media with the same handle. All her links, including the links to her book, The Prosperity Puzzle, are in the show notes as well. Speaking of social media, I would love to connect with you. Here are a few ways you can do that. You can join my Facebook group, Delicious Alignment. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. This way you'll never miss an episode. And you can follow me on Instagram at Delicious Alignment. Also, feel free to tell your friends about this podcast. I would so appreciate that because you sharing this podcast is the absolute number one best way to help us grow. All my links are in the show notes as well. Join me every Thursday for a new episode. Well, that's it for today, my friend. See you next week.